So we all know about electricity and static electricity and generators and Leyden jars. What I'm going to do today is just zoom in a little bit more, just so we've got a crystal clear understanding of why we're with these devices, you know. So it's all based around this book that I come across, and in this book it's just full of golden nuggets. I can't believe it. 1857, and they're doing experiments. I was saying this is a kid's book, but to me this is a teenager book, and it's just full of experiments with galvanisation, magnetism, electricity, and it's going to knock your socks off. So out of this I decided to make my own Leyden jar. I've done the jar, and now I'm just going to make my Wimshurst generator so I can get the static from that. But anyway, I'm going to read you a few bits from this, and then we're going to look at Leyden jars and what they powered and bits and pieces. And the other great thing about this book is it's just got so much stuff in it. Just, do you know, back then they called it electricity fluid. Very interesting, hey? So this is the Wimshurst generator. I keep going to call it Wim Hof, but it's the Wimshurst generator. I mean, pause and read this, like, you're more than welcome. I'm even going to put a link to this book after, so people doing their own research can make videos on it. So this is what I made here. I made that, and I'm going to be making the generator underneath. So like I said, we all know about the Leyden jars. So we all know they held static electricity. How did the electricity get in there? And what were they using the electricity for? These are the questions that I was asking. And this is what we're going to work out by the end of this video. So it goes to say the plate electrical machine. Formerly, the electrical machine was made in the form of a cylinder, but now it consists of a plate. As seen in the engraving, the plate is turned by the handle through the rubber, which diffuses the excitement over the glass. The points or balls at each side of the plate carry off a constant stream of positive electricity to the prime conductor. And the prime conductor is literally a knob that sits at the top of it. And this is my own research now. And that prime conductor is where you transfer the power from that to the Leyden jars. Right, I'll just throw that one in there so you know. So negative electricity is generated by insulating the conductor to which the cushion is attached, and continuing the prime conductor with the ground, so as to carry off the fluid collected from the plate. See what I mean? Fluid, electric fluid, current, flow. See, just that on its own is very interesting. But then it goes to show you other little experiments about getting electrical sparks from the nose and things like that. And then it moves on to the Leyden jar. So let's have a little look at this. So, how to get a jar full of electricity. A most useful piece of electrical apparatus is called the Leyden jar, here represented. It is employed for the purpose of obtaining a quantity of electricity, which may be applied to any substance. It consists of a glass jar coated both inside and without, 4/5 of the way up, with tin foil. A knob rises through the wooden top, communicating with the inside of the jar. When it is wished to charge the jar, this knob is applied to the prime conductor of the electrical machine when in action, and a quantity of electricity being given off. The jar will remain charged with it until the connection is made by some good conductor of electricity. Between the knob and the outside tin foil, a piece of brass chain must hang from the stem that carries the knob and connect it with the interior of the jar. You must be having a bubble bath. I'm telling you right now, 270 years ago, you're making electricity at home out of tin foil, wood and glass, and then you're storing it in jars. Where did it go wrong? What happened? Now, if we want power, we have to go and pay for it off the national grid. Right, it's not free, it's not cheap. And another thing is, it's very dangerous, the electricity we got now, and we have been fed through TV, schools, and all the programming and subliminal programming not to go near electricity. The electrical battery. If several of these jars be united, an enormous quantity of electricity can be collected, but in arranging them, all the interior coating must be made to communicate by a metallic rod, and a similar union must be effected among the exterior coatings. When thus arranged, the whole series may be charged as if they formed but one jar. It's just like a capacitor. It's exactly what they are. Batteries and capacitors, the same thing.
For the purpose of making a direct communication between the inner or outer coatings of a jar or battery by which a discharge is effected, an instrument called a discharge rod is employed. It consists of two bent metallic rods terminating at one end by brass balls and connected at another by a joint which is fixed to the end of the glass handle, and which, acting like a pair of compasses, allows the ball being separate at certain distances. When opened to the proper degree, one of the balls is made to touch the exterior, causing it to discharge. Well, I know I said it before, but we're talking 270 years ago, and they're generating power, electricity at home, and they're discharging it. Now we want to look at what were they powering. But before we do that, I just want to look at some other sources of these Leyden jars, just so we can tally them up and see if they're matching. So this was a book from 1857. Now we're going to look at some modern stuff and see what they say about these jars. In 1745, a cheap and convenient source of electric spark was invented by Pieter van Musschenbroek, a physicist and mathematician in Leyden. That's where you get the name from, Leyden jars. Later called the Leyden jar, there you go. The Leyden jar is a simple device that stores static electricity in large amounts. It was the original form of the capacitor. The Leyden jar was used to conduct many early experiments in electricity, and its discovery was fundamental importance to the study of electricity. Previous research has... I just want to jump in here a minute. What about the Baghdad battery, the Egyptian Baghdad battery? This is identical, same layout, same setup, same thing. Anyway, previously researchers had to resort to insulated conductors of large dimensions to store charge. The Leyden jar provided a much more compact alternative. The Leyden jar is a high voltage device. It is estimated that a maximum the early Leyden jars could be charged to 20,000 to 60,000 volts. The center rod electrode has a metal ball at the end to prevent leakage of the charge into the air by corona discharge. Right, so I've definitely bored you with that little cupcake of knowledge, and it was just a condensed little version of that book in that particular subject. So I just wanted to get that through so you can understand that. So now you know that the Leyden jars were powered by the generators that you'd wind up. So you'd wind them up, generate a bit of static electricity, and that gets stored in the jars. You then store the jars, and when you want to use that electricity for something, you then connect the communicator to it and draw the power out of it that way. And if you didn't want to use it, there is a little device that you can just discharge the power or the electricity with, just by turning the knob, and it makes a connection and it discharges it, which makes it safe. So let's look at these pictures that we've got hold of these ends. So you've got like 6 jars, you've got the balls on the top. And like the one I showed you at the start, these metal rods going down will have a chain touching the tin foil in the jar. Now you can charge one, or you can charge all of them. But you can only charge all of them if they're all connected in a series. So this would be a big one. Now I'm going to show you a static generator in a minute. That's in a museum, and it's incredible. And it's mad. It's mad. So if they were doing this 270 years ago, how did they get to that point? Like, what did they discover before? I don't even believe they discovered this. This is just a little story, a little narrative that we get fed. Electricity is part of nature. It's been around since day one. Right, so we looked at Leyden jars. We looked at how to store the electricity inside them, and we've looked at how to make them in 1857. Now let's look at what supplied the power to these devices. Let's zoom in and have a look. So again, you've got another static generator here, and you have plates that spin round, and you can see there's a series of Leyden jars at the bottom. So this would, if you do the mathematics, this would produce a heck of a lot, store a heck of a lot of electricity. Now this is one that's in a museum, and when you look at, like, I do a lot of
researching old stuff in old buildings, especially urbexers like in like France and things like that, you see some of these devices, and another person, Campbell, on auto